All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are diving deep into something, well, I think we can all relate to this in some way. Loneliness.
Yeah.
But, we're not going to approach it the way you usually think about it. We're kind of flipping the script on this one.
Yeah.
We found this really interesting piece, and it argues that the best way to overcome loneliness is actually by understanding ourselves better.
Yeah.
So like really going deep, deep inside.
Yeah, this source, it really digs into some of those common beliefs that I think we all have about loneliness. Those beliefs that kind of keep us stuck in this cycle of like looking for other people to make us feel better, to feel less lonely instead of, actually turning inward.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those beliefs, this one really stood out to me, was what the author calls the forever fantasy. It's like this expectation that certain people, like our really close friends or our partners, they're going to be there forever,
Yeah, it's like this really seductive idea.
It is.
But the author, like, straight up calls us out on it, like says it's a fantasy.
Right.
Which I think, they're definitely onto something there. But what I find so interesting is, why do we, cling to this idea so much?
I know, right? It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Is it, are we afraid of change? Or, are we just terrified of being alone?
I think it's honestly probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And maybe it goes even deeper than that. Maybe this whole clinging to the forever fantasy thing is actually a way of avoiding that responsibility. That responsibility to constantly be nurturing and evolving our relationships.
Totally. It's like we put them on autopilot instead of actually actively choosing to be in them every day.
Yeah, exactly. And then when those relationships, inevitably do change, we feel like, oh, we've been betrayed or abandoned or something.
Right.
But what if we shifted our perspective? What if we started to look at those changes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth, for both people to grow?
Oh, that's a way healthier way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like those relationships serve their purpose for that time.
Right.
And now it's time to move on to a new chapter, whether that's together or separately.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, another idea from this piece that just really hit me.
Yeah.
Was their definition of loneliness.
Okay.
So they say, loneliness occurs when you cannot find yourself inside you.
Wow.
So imagine that, right? Like feeling like a stranger in your own skin.
Yeah.
That's really what they're getting at here.
Oh, I felt that one. I've definitely had those moments, where I just felt so disconnected from my true self. It's like I was just going through the motions, and it's so disorienting.
Yeah, absolutely. And the author even goes on to point out that this often happens when we try to conform to all these external expectations, you know? And there's this really powerful line that says, we try to become someone we're not to fit in.
Oof. I feel like we've all been there at some point, trying to squeeze ourselves into some box that society has created for us.
Right. We dim our own light,
Right.
We suppress our quirks, maybe we pretend to like things we don't.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, and it just leads to this feeling of emptiness,
Totally. And I bet the author would argue that emptiness is where the loneliness really breeds, Because if we're not even being true to ourselves, who are we even connecting with, It's just a facade.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings us to a really interesting point about self-love.
Okay.
Get ready for this one, because the author throws some serious shade at our typical bubble bath and face mask definition of self-love.
Oh, I was wondering when we'd get to that. I love a good pamper session as much as the next person.
Right.
But I knew there had to be more to it than that.
Yeah, and the author totally agrees. They argue that true self-love goes so much deeper than these surface-level acts. It's about this radical self-acceptance. It's about embracing all parts of ourselves, even the messy parts, the flawed parts, the parts we want to hide.
So it's about being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
About who we truly are, warts and all.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings up a really interesting question, I think, for our listeners, What are some of those uncomfortable truths about yourself that maybe you've been avoiding? And what would it look like to actually face them head on?
Ooh, yeah.
That's where the real work begins.
Right.
And the author, reminds us that this work it's ongoing. Self-discovery isn't it's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We're constantly evolving, we're changing, we're having new experiences. It's like we're constantly meeting a new version of ourselves.
Exactly, precisely. And this means, there's no quick fix for understanding ourselves. It takes ongoing curiosity, and it takes a willingness to constantly be learning and growing. We have to keep peeling back those layers, Keep asking questions, keep challenging our assumptions.
And part of that, or according to the author, is being mindful of what we're consuming.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean food, but information too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In today's world, we are just bombarded with information, right? Like so many opinions, so much noise.
It's overwhelming.
It is. And if we're not careful, all that external input can totally drown out our own inner voice.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah.
And we lose sight of our own internal compass.
Exactly. And that's like a recipe for feeling lost and disconnected, not just from ourselves, but from the world around us too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it? How do we filter out all that noise and reconnect with ourselves?
Well, one strategy the author suggests, and it's one that I find incredibly helpful too, is to schedule some regular alone time.
Okay.
For introspection. Even just 5-10 minutes a day, to just sit in silence, disconnect from all the external stimuli, and just tune into your own thoughts and feelings. It can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
Just giving yourself the space to just be.
Yeah.
Without judgment, without distractions. I love that.
It's a simple practice, but it's incredibly powerful. And who knows what you might discover about yourself when you truly start listening.
This deep dive has been, it's given us so much to think about. It's a good reminder that the journey of self-discovery and overcoming loneliness, it's not about finding someone to complete you,
Yeah.
It's about becoming whole within yourself.
Beautifully said, yeah. And that's a journey worth taking no matter where you are in life.
Absolutely. So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep embracing all the amazing complexity that is you. Until next time.
See you then.